Good evening, Grace Covenant. It's been a few weeks since I did a devotional. I was doing some continuing education and I visited my parents. So I'm glad to be back, spending some time with you this evening. And I just finished doing a few workshops this week about leading change around white supremacy in institutions. And so there's so much good information. One of the books referenced in one of the workshops that I participated in was Isabel Wilkerson's Caste. And we talked about, in the workshop, we talked about how much colonialism depends on dividing people and broken relationships and broken trust, and how much capitalism depends on broken relationships and broken trust. In fact, functioning capitalism incentivizes things like slavery and genocide, because slavery is cheap labor, basically. And genocide is an easy way to get your hands on resources and have control over resources. And so the kind of existential rupture that happens when people are divided against each other is one of the kind of root kind of presentations of our illness, of our woundedness, of the ways that white supremacy has diminished our humanity. And so it made me start thinking just about, how do we prioritize relationships? How do we center the importance of nurturing substantive relationships? And that's even more challenging right now as we continue to deal with COVID. And I'm thinking about how at Grace Covenant we've really tried hard to put energy into building stronger relationships with each other, and to being mutually vulnerable, and to really putting our energy into building trust with each other, and learning how to hold each other accountable, learning how to have difficult conversations, learning how to tell the truth about what we're struggling with in our lives. And I guess I want to challenge you to think about this as this fall gets underway, and our world, our country, especially in an election season, is kind of churning from the woundedness of our broken relationships. Think about how other falls you were just running around all the time. There were sporting events and all these practices and places you had to be, and lots of things that had to do with church. And those things aren't all here the same way. We're not going to have Friday night football games. We don't have as many in-person events to go to. And those things took a lot of energy. Is there a way in your life to use some of that energy to feed and nurture substantive relationships? Are there ways that you can use that energy, use that space that you have in your life to really get to know someone better, to really let them get to know you better, and then you in turn get to know yourself a little bit better? Are there ways that you can really prioritize building relationships that are stronger and truer and more authentic this fall? I think that can be a real healing balm for us as a community, and for us as a culture as well. I've particularly been thinking about how we cultivate relationships with people that we don't know very well, or people that we might you know, think we don't want to know very well, and how we might be open for some surprise, for some unexpected healing opportunities if we reach out and just say, hey, would you be up for a phone call? Would you be up for just a brief Zoom check-in, or maybe a socially distanced walk, or a masked socially distanced cup of coffee, or whatever. Think about it. And if you're somebody who really can't get out right now, maybe a phone call. And like I said, maybe a Zoom or something, but just 30 minutes of your time just to talk to each other, listen to each other. That kind of strengthening of the fabric of our community is what's going to help us see ourselves through to a better way of being together. Especially right now in Asheville, as our community is trying to think about what reparation can be. The process itself needs to be reparative. And so relationships need to be repaired. And the repair that we each do are just little stitches in that tapestry that we might think it doesn't make any difference, but it does. Every time you spend time on truly honoring another person's humanity and letting them honor yours, you're changing the world. So I'm praying for you that you can really give this some thought and think about some ways this fall to use your energy to prioritize relationships. I'd love to hear from you about how you're going to make that happen in your life. Blessings to all of you.